Welcome to the Home Fellowship Podcast. We are a place where the students of Belfast can gather together and encounter Jesus, and then go live a life like him. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. Feel free to check us out on Facebook and Instagram for our upcoming events. So welcome to the second ever Home Fellowship Podcast. I'm sitting down today with Matt Thompson. Many of you might know Matt. Matt came and spoke at one of our events last year. Matt also does a lot of podcasting with Best of Belfast, which is his own company, and he does a lot of stuff. He's written a book, but I'm going to let Matt just introduce yourself, Matt, for us, if that's okay.
Yeah, 100%. So, hello if you're watching, hello if you're listening. We've got this little narrative device here, forward moving, hourglass. There's something about like the forward motion of time that makes you feel like you're a wee bit under pressure. So we hope to do 2 turns of these. But yeah, my name is Matthew. I was speaking at Home Fellowship last year, had a really class time with you guys, sharing the story of The Blood Tip Blade, which is my first book, all about my own personal journey with pornography addiction, and highlights the story of 13 other people as well. So that was really exciting. I have like that hipster job title of, yes, I work as a podcaster and I work as a writer. And yeah, Best of Belfast is my real pride and joy. And we so far have done over 80 hour-long conversations with incredible people who call this part of the world home. So
amazing.
Yeah,
that's class, mate. Yeah, I feel I totally out of my depth here podcasting with you, bro. That's good. But I really appreciate your time today. We always ask this question. Well, I say we always. This is our second podcast.
Mate, back yourself.
We've asked it once. We're going to keep asking it. But well, the question is when you were a student. I know you are a student. You're studying a master's. Actually, want to chat a wee tiny bit about that, Matthew? What's that?
Yeah, so alongside kind of my commercial writing, I'm really into fiction. I love writing short stories. Like most writers in the world, I'm working on a novel, of course. And for me, the Masters is a really great way to keep me in the game, in the fiction world, and make sure that I'm actually producing fiction work, because the temptation is, you're like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing paid work, and then, you know, your personal writing and the writing that you're really passionate about can kind of slip to the side. So I figured, you know, cough up and do a Masters, and that kind of locks you in and forces you to produce and stay in the game. So yeah.
Amazing. Nice one. Well, the question was, when you were a student, what was your favourite meal to cook? But you're obviously still studying, so what was your favourite like student meal to cook? Have you any like dishes, anything really random?
So
Owen Crane last time, he had like pancakes. That was his thing, real random.
So my favourite dish is French toast and bacon. And you make the bacon in the oven. So you turn the oven on when you get home, you throw the bacon in on a wee bit of tin foil, and then it cooks while you make the French toast. And then pretty much as you finish the French toast, bacon comes out. Now, this is a wee bit controversial. I am a savoury French toast guy. I actually like a wee bit of hot sauce. Nice. Maybe even some tomatoes. I was going to say tomato ketchup, and I was like, stop it, America, flip's sake. But in reality, I mean, it was really just a lot of rice dishes. Because I would cook rice, and then I would take it in Tupperware the next day, and I actually had to go off rice for like 2 years because I was so sick looking at it.
Brilliant. Your time as a student, did you enjoy you're obviously studying now, but did you enjoy your time doing your degree, and how was that for you? How was it being a student?
Yeah, being a student I really enjoyed, actually, because I suppose I came at it 3 years later than I should have.
Okay.
So when I was 18, I left the country and I was away for 3 years. And I think I really needed that, because by the time I'd finished my levels, I was completely done with school. And if I had jumped into uni, I think it just would have been like a continuation of my A levels. And my whole mindset was very much like, oh, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to class. Like, I just want to go out there. And like, I really wanted to do my own thing. Okay. So actually coming into uni on what felt like more of my own terms was actually really, really powerful and really important, because it meant I actually was really committed to what I was going to study. Because I, you know, same as the Masters, I jumped into uni because I wanted to become a better writer. And I wanted to connect myself to that kind of more fiction creative side of writing, because that was outside of my comfort zone. So I actually really enjoyed being a student. I was super keen. And it was a bit challenging to juggle the business and to juggle the podcast alongside doing my university work, but it actually also gave me, I mean, honestly, if you're a student listening, like, make the most of your uni days. Sponsor for uni days. Because it's 3 years where you actually have a bit of an excuse to kind of just explore and do whatever you want. And I didn't necessarily have the pressure of, I need to be the breadwinner in these 3 years. I need to be making, you know, a certain amount of money every single month to, you know, cover the bills. It actually gave me that wee bit of breathing space that I actually probably really needed to do the podcast and write the book and all that sort of stuff. So that free time was invaluable.
Nice one.
Yeah.
That's cool. What did you study, sorry, Matt? And where did you study?
So I studied English with creative writing, and I did it at QUB.
Oh, love it. Love it. Your journey, just briefly, how did you become a Christian? What was your experience with that? Just a wee small bit of your testimony.
Right, so the real kind of short version is like a lot of people grew up in a Christian home, great family, a lot of stuff happened at once, too much to go into detail, but I actually ended up in a very, very, very dark place, really struggling with mental health and really suicidal.
Okay.
And I actually had a moment where I had was stockpiling meds and was had a date in the diary to pretty much end it all. Sorry for jumping straight in there, but you got to keep it short. And I sat down at the kitchen table and I had everything was ready to rock and roll, and felt a voice, heard a voice, whatever way you want to say it.
Yeah.
And really simply, it just said, Matthew, don't do it because I have a plan for your life.
Class.
And like I was so young, like I was stupidly young. And the only way I was really able to rationalize that was, mate, that's just like Samuel in the Bible. Like Samuel lying in bed at night and hearing his voice and not knowing what this voice was, and then going to Eli and be like, did you call me? Like, did I? And really for me, it wasn't like this massive, it wasn't even this like massive revelation. It really was simple as, oh my goodness, are those Bible stories real?
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. Like in that moment, I was like, all this stuff I've been hearing my whole life. It actually, in that moment, I was like, oh crap, this is actually real. And from there, like kickstarted a very, very long journey that is still ongoing, of course. And, walked through the teenage years of pornography addiction, still a lot of physical and mental health issues. And it was a really kind of slow, gradual process to come out of that. It wasn't like and then praise the Lord, I got saved, and the next day I stopped drinking and smoking and my life turned around. That happens, but that wasn't my experience. It was a real slow upward journey that God took me on. And I've been thinking a lot about shepherds and sheep recently, and I know Psalm 23 is always quoted, but I mean, like something that I write down every day at the top of my journal is just like, the Lord is my shepherd. And yeah, that picture of like the rod and the staff, like the comfort and the discipline, like the tenderness and the grit, I just think it's something really, really powerful.
That's amazing, mate. Thank you for sharing. You're coming to speak on our event. Our event's on the 16th of October. You're coming to speak about ego. Would you give us, what kind of way you're going to approach that? Where you're going to be speaking about surrender and ego, or have you any experiences or any stories around that? I know you're speaking a wee bit here and there about ego. It's kind of a topic you're speaking about in a minute. But yeah, what would you be coming to share at Home Fellowship that night? Wee brief kind of preview of your talk, if there was one.
So I mean, I think you really fall into two camps when it comes to ego, and the first camp is the one that we're all aware of, and it's flip's sake, this guy's got such a big head, and oh my goodness, what a character, and he's so up himself, or whatever you want to say. But actually, like, I'm really interested in Northern Ireland, and I'm really interested in kind of looking at our culture and why we are the way we are, and even like generational stuff that's been passed down to us. And actually, I think what I'll be spending most time on is actually the second camp of ego, and that is actually like this false sort of humility and this Northern Irish mindset that actually says, oh, I can't do that. Because I think there is something about us that we hold back. And we are afraid to step out. We're afraid to break, the tribal lines where you're afraid to step up above the parapet. Yeah. And, I think Northern Irish people do humility pretty well. But humility is not necessarily thinking like less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. I stole that from somebody. I don't know who I stole that from. Sorry, it just came out. And that's cool. There is this really important bit where actually, what if God calls you to do something big? Will you step up and do it? And I think a lot of Northern Irish people say no because they're afraid. They're afraid of looking foolish. They're afraid of being seen as, who does your man think he is? Flip's sake. And actually, there is that kind of like the shadow side to ego, where instead of really bigging yourself up, you actually make yourself very small. And I think when you do that, one of the things I'm really excited to share is we need to be really, really careful that we don't let our idea of ministry get in the way of God's call on our lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how much to share. I'm like,
that's brilliant. No, Matt, we're so excited. Just a reminder, yes, 16th of October at 8:30 we're meeting. Yeah, Matt, I actually only have one last question. I don't know how I've done this. We've absolutely flown through
I can't believe you've done this.
I don't know, but we'll maybe bounce about a wee bit. But what advice kind of would you give? Well, we'll elaborate. We'll try to stretch this
go
out.
off script, man. I mean, work away. Conversation. Pretend this isn't here.
Well, sure. Lock this phone. But yeah, being a student, I know for me personally, when I came to Belfast as a student, I very much had a faith coming up. I was brought up in an amazing church, but when I came to Belfast, my eyes kind of just opened. I met a lot of people, even through my university. I met a lot of different Christian people with different opinions and views, and like I came from like a wee town, Ballymoney. But when I came to Belfast, it was crazy.
The big smoke.
I felt like New York. You know, I know you've lived in New York, yeah. But it was just crazy. But I just remember being at this place where I was like, I need to take my faith seriously now. Just prime time, just like, okay, I'm away from my parents, a wee bit more freedom. But I remember really jumping up, and not necessarily, I say it like this and I'm not really sure, but I think I kind of had my own faith, but it was very much my parents' faith, and it was very much, this, I go to this church to do this thing. And then when I came to Belfast, I just really fell in love with being a disciple, really fell in love with Jesus again. On the back of that, is there any like advice, anything you can give students? Say there's students listening to this podcast, come along to home fellowship, and it's their like first time in Belfast. Like, we're only, Freshers Week's just over. There will be people here, but you're new to Belfast, you're a new student. Is there any advice, anything you can give new students arriving into this city who may be listening today are going to come along to this event? Any advice at all? Just,
I don't know why I'm going to say this. Is the only thing that's in my head. Have you ever heard that Johnny Cash song? And it's like, go on, get rhythm, boom, boom, boom. Like, I've been thinking a lot about rhythm, and I have had the opportunity to live in different places around the world. And I was chatting to someone the other day on the podcast, and we were saying that actually, no matter where you go in the world, you're still lugging yourself around with you. Yeah. And, I think a lot of times we have in our head, it's like, oh, this new season of my life, I'm going to go and completely reinvent myself. And then you get there and actually you're like, oh, it's just the same me. And for me, the thing that makes the biggest difference are your daily rhythms.
Cool. And
so, like, at the risk of sounding like an old man, but like that daily time with God is so, so important. Yeah. And for me, like, I know for a fact, I can track kind of the success and failure of my life based on the seasons where I've kept that. And I use those terms very loosely. It's not like, I was making $1 million whenever I was seeking the Lord. That's not what I'm talking about. And even if it's something simple, actually, this wee art glass here, like right now, like, it's actually one of my favorite. It's actually probably my favorite possession in the world, because 15 minutes is a powerful thing. Yeah. And see, just in the mornings, like, you can get so bogged down by like, I need to read like 4 hours of the scripture a day, and then need to dive into Spurgeon, and then I need a wee bit of John Mark Comer on the side. You know what I mean? But actually, 15 minutes, if you have that, or even less, if you just say, look, I'm going to spend 5 minutes here just in prayer. I do this wee small thing called pray. You're like, yes, I've heard of that, Matthew. But I take a page and I divide it in 4, and I write P-R-A-Y, and the first one is praise. I just write down, what are some things I'm really grateful for today? Next one, request. What I need today. What I want to ask, like what I need help with. Action. What do I actually need to do today? So often in our lives, and I think in our faith and our ministries, we get so obsessed with like the big, massive picture that you neglect the day by day, the really small stuff. And actually, if you look at any kind of character in the Bible or any person in life, like the big moments in life are made up of all those small, wee, tiny grains of sand, because that's what your days are. You know what I mean? Like I'm obsessed with this art glass. It's like time is just so continuous. You cannot stop it. And having like a daily rhythm where you can actually establish things, set your course on the right track, and actually even like download your mission for the day. That sounds a bit corny, but it's so helpful. And the last one, sorry to close that loop, is why, and I had to kind of shoehorn the word in just to make sure that the pray was accomplished. But it's yearn, and that's kind of just that wee lofty bit where you're like, What's my soul yearning for today? What do I need to hear from God today? Create a wee bit of space. God, speak, Lord, because your servant is listening. Do you want to say anything to me today? Was there anything revealed to me, through this time, through this 15 minutes, whatever it was? Did anything pop up in the Bible that kind of stood out to me today? And I just, use that space to write that down. And that's really helpful. So the rhythm of your daily time with God and your rhythm with community is just so essential. I did a talk recently and talked about this thing called the fellowship list. And for me, I realized that even though I have like some of the most incredible friends in the world, I was really lonely. And loneliness is something that is just rife. It's everywhere. And we all experience it in so many different ways, even though we're so connected. Even though we literally can call your mum, granny, and Calvin at the tap of a button. We could actually group chat if we wanted to. You know what I mean? It's so instant. And so this thing, the fellowship list, was again all about rhythm. And it was just a really simple commitment. Okay, I'm going to choose 5 of my nearest and dearest. And I'm going to commit to seeing every single one of them at least every other week. And just that small commitment. Because what was happening was I was going and I was getting a coffee with your man, and then I was, replying to someone on email, and do you want to pick your brain on this, and da-da-da. And then actually you were spending time with all these, not necessarily randomers, sometimes randomers, but shallow relationships, and you were neglecting the deeper relationships in your life. And, it's like now, like, Thursdays, for example, is a day where I see one of my grannies, and it's just like to have that every single week is really, really significant, because it's so easy for that time to disappear. And we're so good, we're so well intentioned. I used to volunteer on a Thursday night. Really, really, like, something I loved. It was working with prison fellowship and working with guys coming out of prison, and it was really amazing work. But I actually felt God challenging me on that and being like, well, actually, what about your grannies? And that was a tough move, but it was so worthwhile. And I have been blessed, brother, by being obedient in that area. But I really have. And the rhythm of consistently investing in the important close relationships in your life, nailing your daily time with God, whatever that looks like for you. And, a wee bit of exercise, even if it is going for a walk and making sure you're not eating Deliveroo every night, it goes a long way.
Nice. What you're saying there about community, and I remember for me coming up to Belfast and having this group of lads called, we called our group Beard. Real random, like,
squad.
Beard. Cannot grow a beard for the life of me either. But we, like, those lads, and to be honest, and it's probably bad on my behalf too, some of those lads actually, I'll keep in contact with all of them. Some of them I haven't really chatted to in ages. We're all doing our own thing. A couple of us live here and there over in Wales, England. But those guys were amazing for my Christian life. Like, honestly, so essential. I did not realise that we had this tight group, and we met like early in the morning. Well, I say like 6 a.m. prayed and had this amazing time with each other, and it was just like so essential. I look back now, and those guys definitely shaped me, and that's amazing what you're saying about spending time and investing in people. You obviously, where you work and what you do spend a lot of time with different people. You have opportunities to meet a lot of people. How is that, or how's that? Even sharing your faith in the workplace, doing what you do, how do you find that? Is there a balance with that? No.
It's great. I mean, I just think living out yourself, what am I trying to say? I think just whenever you live authentically, it really, really helps. Oh, the table has been turned. And just being authentic and not feeling like you need to have an agenda, not feeling like you need to shoehorn anything into a conversation, but actually just allowing things to be. It's kind of like the advice for podcasting. It's like, just be a human. You know what I mean? Like, just be ordinary and focus on what do you need to do right now. I want to have really great relationships with the people here. And life happens. The hard times come, the challenges come, the opportunities come, and it's important to take those opportunities whenever they're there. A really great piece of advice I actually think was from, where was it? I think it was a Peter Linus thing. And he said this thing about setting your stall out early. And he just meant, don't feel like you need to hide. This isn't like some sort of like secret guerrilla spec ops operation. You know what I mean? Like, you can be very open and very public about your faith, and people are receptive to that. We do have a lot of fear, and the media kind of propagates this fear of, Christianity in the West is, we're being persecuted and all this sort of stuff. No, we're not. Not yet. Like, there are some things happening, of course, but like that is in very isolated, specific media talking point areas that gets all the hype and all the attention and all the clickbait. But see people in your everyday, ordinary lives, like, they're open.
Yeah.
And as long as you're actually not a complete arse, people will respect you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they see that there is something decent and something different about you.
Yeah.
But being a part of this community it's really, really amazing. I mean, you're right. The chance to meet people is really class. We do have, for anyone listening, anyone interested, we have set up, sorry, it's a bit sexist, but it's like a men's prayer meeting. And prayer meeting is actually quite a loose term because it's really more like an AA meeting. So it's every Tuesday morning here in Normal Bass, and it's actually just a space for, because male mental health is something that's obviously I'm really passionate about. And it's just a space for a group of men, young men, old men, men in the business world, people who are studying, people who are retired, whatever it is, just to come. And you have about 2 or 3 minutes each, and you just go around the table and you basically say, this is what was good in my week, this is what was bad in my week, and this is what was ugly, and this is what I would like prayer for. And see just that, again, back to the rhythm, every Tuesday morning. It's only been going for about a year, but it's one of the highlights of my week. And it's one of the highlights of the weeks of the guys that go to that. And that's a class opportunity. Yeah. It's class because you can come in, just like the Beard group was doing, before your day, you know, before everyone else comes in and starts working, before you kind of get stuck into your email inbox and doing your work. It's class because you get a wee bit of community, you get a wee bit of prayer, you get supported, you get to offload, make sure you're not bottling things up. And that's just really cool. And then the ripple effects that has in the wider community here, I think, is really important.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Matt. Really just wrapping up with last couple of questions. Your book, obviously, your book's amazing. I'm reading my way through it. It's cracker. Like, where can people? What was kind of? I love the story. I love the story behind the title. And can you kind of share really quickly, really briefly about that there? The name of your book, why you named it that way and stuff.
You want the fable?
Go for it, bro. Yeah.
Okay. So, when I was 16, I was in Germany. And this guy, middle-aged guy, stood up in front of the room and he told this story about a wolf. And the condensed version is there used to be this kind of legend or fable about how Eskimos used to hunt wolves, people from the Inuit tribes. And basically it was a story of a father and a son, and they went out to hunt a wolf. And the son was really excited. And the dad took a knife and cut his hand. And the son was freaking out. Someone's like, what the heck is dad up to? And so he covered the knife in blood and he stuck it up in the ice. And I went home. Came back the next day and there was a dead wolf. And the son was just like, why did this happen? And the dad goes on to explain that basically, son, the wolf was out hunting and it smells the blood and it kicked into hunt mode and its heart rate was going mad and it started running and started getting really, really hungry. And it gets to the knife and it's kind of like, I've never really seen anything like this before. This is a wee bit strange. But it's curious, smells good. So, you know, gives it a wee lick. It's like, hey, that's not bad. Gives another wee lick and another lick and another lick. And then it just starts gorging itself. And it's having a class time because you're like, mate, this is an unlimited supply of blood, of food. This is class. And then, lo and behold, the story goes on. And then the wolf's not aware that it's gorging itself on its own blood. It's a really gruesome metaphor. I mean, buckle up, guys. And then the wolf effectively bleeds out. So it's a fable. You know, it's not necessarily true. It's based on things that did happen in the Arctic with various hunting methods. But when he said that story, I just remember feeling, oh my goodness, like this is the ultimate shorthand for my relationship with pornography. Now, it might sound a bit weird. So what I mean by that is pornography was something in my life that I was feeding on, that I thought was filling me up, that I thought was satisfying me. But in the end, it was hurting me. It was a blood-tipped blade. It was something that I kept going back to and kept going back to, even though I knew that it was hurting me, even though I knew it was damaging the relationships around me. I just couldn't seem to break free from it. And so, yeah, the book is called The Blood-Tipped Blade. It's the whole kind of idea is that pornography is a blood-tip blade in our generation. We're living in a time that a lot of researchers have described as Generation XXX. And, you know, you guys listening, you guys watching, you know for a fact that it's you know, it's all over the place. I was first exposed to it whenever I was 11, and that's kind of bog standard average age these days. But I did find that growing up, there was a real gap in the church for talking about issues like this. Gap in the family if you're talking about issues like this, gap in the school because it's so taboo. But we also had this massive like technological revolution that happened so quickly that no one could really keep up. Like no one expected their wee like 12-year-old to be watching porn on their iPod Touch. You know what I mean? It was like, oh God bless him, he must just playing a wee game. What are you playing, son? Minesweeper or something? You're like, Mom, we haven't played that in like since like 95. And so the book, it kind of follows that whole metaphor of the wolf, and you kind of break it down and look at the hunters. So I look at the porn industry itself. You know, how does that work? Who's setting the trap in the first place? I look at the wolf and the environment that we live in today, how it's hypersexualized, and the challenges and the opportunities that are of being a part of that. And then the fight, and it's broken really simply into what can we do physically, what can we do mentally, and what can we do spiritually to basically overcome this in our own lives. And then wider in the culture, how can we start to talk about and address these issues? And I mean, for me, the fun part of the book really is at the end of every chapter, there is a story from someone who has been impacted by pornography in some way. It's a whole kind of all over the world, random group of people, good friends of mine who I've met over the years, and it ranges from, you know, former sex addicts to counselors to my wife to my mum to my pastor, kind of all over the place. And it's interesting for me because I am really interested in telling stories, and you know, the podcast and all. It was just a really important part of that book for me, because if you were to ask me what is this book for, really simply, at fundamental basis, it's for a 16-year-old to pick up and say, oh, I'm not alone. That's it. And it's been a really exciting journey.
That's amazing. Anyone listening or watching and wants to get a hand on the book, please shoot us a wee DM or come along on the 16th, get chatting to Matt. But Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Where can we check out your stuff? Where can we check out Best of Belfast online, podcast wise?
Yeah, man. I mean, just search Best of Belfast anywhere. You'll find us on Google. We pop up. Type in Belfast in any podcast app, and you'll find us there.
Nice one. Well, here, really appreciate your time today. Again, 16th of October, Matt is going to be coming to speak on surrender and ego. You'll not want to miss that. Thank you so much for your time today, mate. Appreciate it.
You killed it.
Thanks again for listening today. And for more information, please check out our Facebook and Instagram. See you soon.